All right, before I get to my next guest, Tom Patri, I want to remind you this segment of the show is sponsored by our good friends over at the PGA Tour Superstore.
This segment of the show is brought to you by the PGA Tour Superstore. See why golfers everywhere are proud to call PGA Tour Superstore their golf pro shop. Visit them online at PGATourSuperstore.com. Now back to Chris and more of the show.
All right, before I get to my next guest, Tom Patri, I want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Positive Vibes Golf. Check them out online at PositiveVibesGolf.com and give them a follow on Twitter at PVibesGolf. Their head covers and putter covers, folks, are a unique way to keep your mind focused on positive thoughts and a great on-course training aid to stay positive and put positive, happy images in your mind. Check it out on Twitter at PVibesGolf or see them online at PositiveVibesGolf.com. And now back with me on the French Lick Resort guest line is my good friend Tom Patri. Tom is a Golf Tips Magazine Top 25 instructor. He's also the director of instruction at the Hawthorns Golf and Country Club up in Fishers, Indiana. And if you're anywhere near Indianapolis and you need help with your golf game, you need to go check out Tom. Check out his website as well, tompatri.com, P-A-T-R-I. So tompatri.com. Subscribe to his newsletter, get in contact with him, book a lesson, and he's a crazy Yankee fan, and there's nothing worse on this planet than Yankee fans. But, I always give an exception for Tom because he's an exceptional human being. But I appreciate your time again tonight, TP. How are you?
How did that series go last weekend, Chrissy?
How'd the series go the week before? Easy, TP.
How did that series go last weekend, Chrissy? I got the broom.
Not well.
I'm just doing a little dusting out here, doing a little dusting out in the room here, dusting it up.
Yeah, I tell you what, the Red Sox pitching staff, like Andy Leno was just saying, is just atrocious.
Well, guess what? If you put the Red Sox pitching staff and the Yankee pitching staff together, it's still atrocious. So
it really is.
I don't think we have four good starters between us right now. I mean, it's awful.
No.
It's awful.
It really is.
Awful.
And then the Astros going on getting Zach Greinke at the trade deadline. When you look at trying to face that stuff with with Cole and Verlander, and you add Greinke to that, and holy smokes! But yeah, at least like I said, I'm going to Fenway, and I get to have the experience, and it's always fun just to be in the ballpark. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing about Fenway next week when you go up there will be the hot dogs. So you'll be fine.
That's right. Unfortunately, true. TP, I saw you recently spent some time with Damon Hack of the Golf Channel. You guys hanging out together. What's it like spending a little time with Damon?
Yeah, Damon's been a good friend for a long time. Before I go to Damon, though, I got to give a shout out. My man Kevin O'Hara from Chicago, Illinois, today qualified for the Chicago Mid-Amateur. I was up there watching him play today, walked around with him, and he did a hell of a job. So I just want to give him a shout. I know he's listening tonight, and I'm really proud of the way he played today. So good for him, Kevin. Go get him next week. But Damon Hack, Chris, and I don't know if you know Damon or not. He's one of the real gentlemen in media. He's been a friend for a long time. A student of the game, one of my students of the game, and he came to me basically as a relative beginner, and we've got him down somewhere in the mid to low teens now, and nobody loves golf more than Damon Hack. He's, I don't know if you know about his history, but before the Golf Channel, he was a sports writer for Sports Illustrated, covered the PGA Tour and the NFL, and then before that, he was a beat writer for the New York Times. He's got a pretty nice resume. UCLA guy, West Coast guy, now converted, lives in Orlando, Florida, but just a wonderful man, and came up here and we did a fireside chat for the membership, and it was really well received. He did a hell of a job, and it was nice having him here.
Tom, you give a shout out to one of your students, and now I talk about Damon also being one of your students. I want you to give a shout out to one of your junior players, a guy that a young man that I've been watching you teach and watching some of your Facebook Live broadcasts in the past. The young man, Jack the Whack. I want you to give a shout out to one of your junior students.
Yeah, Jack. Unfortunately, Jack the Whack had a rough weekend this past week. He posted 2 rounds we weren't happy with in the Met PGA Junior Championship. But he's a young man who is now 13, Chris, and he came to me when he was 7. And nobody more passionate about the game as a junior than Jack the Whack. He's a wonderful kid. a three-sport athlete. He plays quarterback, he plays point guard, and he's playing golf. And the golf bug has definitely gotten him. And he's a really good athlete. So he's a little bit behind the learning curve, starting a little later than some kids competing. But he's made some progress. He broke 80 for the first time about a week ago in the junior tournament. He's all jacked up about that. I think this kid's a good enough athlete. He's going to figure it out over time. It'll be pretty good.
Tom, tonight we've been talking, sort of the theme of the show has been around the PGA Tour playoffs. We've got them starting up this week. We got the Northern Trust being played up in your old neck of the woods, right? Liberty National up there.
Yeah.
Not right across the river there. So do you ever get an opportunity to play, by the way, at Liberty? You ever play Liberty National?
I have been to Liberty, Chris. Yeah, I sure have. It's a fun place. I mean, the golf course is above average, but the views are spectacular of the city skyline. It's a very cool place, actually. Yeah.
So, your thoughts when you look at just the playoff system that we have on the PGA Tour? Good for the game, bad for the game. What are your thoughts about the playoffs in general?
You know, my one concern, Chris, with the whole playoffs and the wraparound season, and you know the fourth major being finished in July, but in general the wraparound season is, you know, are we going to burn these guys out? They don't have any time out. They don't have any downtime. They don't have any time with their family. They just seem to keep on going now 12 months a year. And you know, we watched back injuries increase in golf. We watched wrist injuries increase in golf. We watched general injury overall increase in golf. You know, with the speed of the golf swing and the distance the ball's traveling. And now these guys are playing 12 months a year, and they don't really have any time to rest their body or rest their mind. And I'm concerned about that. I think the playoff system is exciting. Obviously, $15 million will get your attention. I'm not sure if long term it's a good thing for the game and the player themselves. You know, I'm not really sure about that.
Tom, you bring up a really excellent point, and that's around the injuries with the game of golf. When I see guys that are roughly my size, I mean the Justin Thomases of the world, you know, with the wrist injuries and that sort of thing, you know, swinging, you know, those guys swing out of their shoes. I mean, 125, 130 mile an hour swings for guys that are 5'7", 5'8", you know, 150, 160 pounds, swinging it that hard. And then, you know, with the divot that you're taking to get the spin that you're looking for and that sort of thing. Well, it just doesn't seem like it's a recipe for long-term health and being able to play the game at the level that I'm sure these guys want to be playing it at when they're 40, 45 years old. Is that something that the game needs to really think about, is how we're playing and how they're playing it with those fast swings and that sort of thing?
Well, that's exactly my point. I mean, we watched JT go through an injury this year. We watched well-documented injuries to Tiger, obviously, to Jason Day, and the list goes on and on and on of these guys who've been hurt and you know, miss half a season, miss 10, 15 tournaments, or going all the way back to the Frank Novelos of the world who blew their back out. And you know, it's pretty well documented now what's going on with swing speeds and injury. And then again, like I said, that you throw the wraparound season in there, no downtime and no rest for the body. Chris, I'm telling you, I'm very concerned about it. I'm really concerned about the well-being of this player and the longevity of each career. It's not. I don't think it's a very good recipe.
Tom, something that we've talked about in the past and something I'm concerned about is my boy Jordan Spieth. And every time I start to think he's finding something and he's turning a corner. You know, last week when he opened with rounds of 64 and 67, he said, all right, he's in the mix. Maybe he's starting to come around. Third round, he shoots 77 on Saturday. He misses the 54-hole cut. He's driving it out of bounds a couple of different times in those rounds. He makes 3 double bogeys on Saturday. To me, Jordan Spieth seems lost. If you were his instructor, what would you tell him to do?
Oh, you know, I think we watched a lot of players come out on tour who are not power players per se. And by the way, I think Jordan Spieth, when he came out, was one of the best drivers of the golf ball we've seen in a long time. He had a really good combination of driving the ball, both, you know, adequate distance, not overpowering distance, but adequate distance, and drove the ball relatively straight, and was a really nice iron player. And early on, we heard the media, and we heard him himself talk about the need for more distance. and obviously things have gone sideways. I think the problem with being his coach is it's sometimes when you go down that road, it's really tough to come back up that road. I think the young man is very much right on the fence right now of falling either way. I mean, I could see him recovering and getting it back on track, but I could also see him falling off the fence the wrong direction, and we never hear from him again. Literally never hear from him again. We watched Ian Baker Finch do the same thing. Look for those 15 more yards, and here was a player in Baker Finch that was on his way to being one of the top 5 players in the world, and literally, couldn't find forget the fairway, couldn't find the golf course. Jordan Spieth is at a very, very critical juncture in his life and in his career right now, and it's a very, very, very troubling time, I'm sure, for him. And I think he is, Chris, just like you said. I think he is very much lost, and I question what they've tried to do with his golf game and where they tried to go with his golf game.
To that end, TP, to your point about trying to get that extra 10 or 15 yards. And I don't know, maybe it's just how naive I am about what it's like to be out there on tour. A million times better than I. But to your point, I mean, he was a guy. I mean, he driving the golf ball, 290, 300. I mean, he was never going to be Jason Day. He was never going to be up there with DJ and those guys driving at 340 yards. Right. Is this a guy trying to get out of his lane? Because some sort of, hey, I gotta be a 310, 320 guy if I can compete. Because I think his competing was how good and creative he was with his short game, your big thing to me, and how
right.
great a putter he was.
Right. So obviously, like I said, he came out there as a very adequate driver of the golf ball and a very accurate driver of the golf ball and a good iron player. And it's funny, as things start to fall apart, you put pressure on different parts of your game. So now he's missing fairways. Now he's trying to recover. And now he's not hitting a lot of greens. Now there's a lot of pressure on a good short game, just forget to compete, just to make cuts. And it's almost like a cancer because it works backwards through the game. You look at a guy like Tom Kite in his career who never drove the ball very far, but understood how Tom Kite played the game. And Tom Kite never tried to change Tom Kite. And he played pretty nicely. I mean, he made a lot of money out there, won a lot of events, won a major, had a very good career. Jordan Spieth in 2015 drove the ball in play, hit a lot of greens, and when he did miss a green, he had a wonderful short game. It was a very well-balanced game. It was not a flashy game, but it was a really functional, really efficient game. And he has definitely lost his way.
Tom, last time, kind of going in the opposite direction, we talked a lot about the new young guns that have burst onto the scene. That was sort of on the heels of Matthew Wolff getting his first win and only his third or fourth start out on the tour. Since then, we've seen Colin Morikawa get his first win at the Barracuda Championship. Victor Hovland is a guy that's been near the top of the leaderboards, finished fourth last weekend in the Wyndham Championship. And what strikes me about these guys, and a lot of people are talking about this with respect to these guys coming out and having no fear out there, playing amongst the best players in the world, coming right out of college and feeling like they could come in and win, and they're doing it. And to me, that's different than the way it used to be. But like I say, you're a guy who played out on the tour, and you've been around golf for many, many years. Is this a different sort of air to these guys that wasn't like that back in the 70s and 80s? Or was it always there? We just didn't hear about it as much.
Well, let's be factual. I never played the PGA Tour, but I played a little bit overseas and played what was the beginning of the predecessor to the Web.com tour, which is now the Corn Ferry Tour. Played some events on that. What was really a experimental tour by the PGA Tour back then. But I mean, Chris, the big difference now is, when I got out of school and turned professional, there was one mini tour in this country. It was called Space Coast. It was in Orlando, Florida. It was the only mini tour in the country. And other than that, which played during the winter, during the summer, you had to scrape and scrounge and drive millions of miles in your car to find an event to play in, whether it was a state open or an independent event of some kind, and really had to, kind of ragtag your schedule together. These kids play AJGA golf at a very high level, very well organized events, 54 and 72 hole events. They play, every PGA section has a really well run junior tour within their section. There's a plantation tour. There's 5 different junior tours that are, playing pretty high level golf. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you saw this last week, the PGA National Junior last week, the winning kid shot 21 under.
Wow.
When the PGA National Junior Championship shot 20, one kid shot 60 in this, I believe it was the second round. I mean, there were 62s and 63s posted throughout the tournament. So that's not even college golf. That's junior golf. Now they go from there. They go to college golf and they play at an Oklahoma State. They play at the University of Florida. They play at the University of Texas, or University of Southern California, or UCLA, or Stanford. And they're playing against the best of the best in 4 years of these junior players who have already been well seasoned as juniors. Sure, by the time they turn pro, they are fearless. They have shot low numbers. They've done it under pressure. They've done it on a regular basis. They've traveled. They've understand the rigors of traveling. I had to learn how to travel, how to build a schedule, how to make a plane flight, how to get from one event to the next. These kids have been doing this since they were 13, 14, or 15 years old. I think back in my day, more guys lost their card after they got it, not because they didn't have a golf game to sustain and play on tour. The rigors of playing on tour, the travel and the coordination that they didn't have any training in overwhelmed them. These kids are not overwhelmed anymore. They're so organized. They have a sports psychologist. They have an exercise physiologist. Their college coaches really groomed them as to how to play and how to be organized and how to practice. They're not fearless. They're not fearing anybody. I mean, we watched Matt Wolff make an eagle right on top of Bryson DeChambeau like he had his eyes closed, like he knew he was going to do it. These kids are ready to win right now.
Tom, talk about confidence, right? Because sort of, dovetailing off of this piece. Talk about, when you're working with the young players, your junior players, and getting them prepared to go play in some of these AJGA and bigger junior events. How do you instill confidence in them so that they don't fear being out there and being in the competition and people starting to watch them for the first time and that sort of thing? How do you build them up?
Chris, I think that's a great question. I mean, I talked to my friend Kevin in Chicago today when he was playing in this mid-amateur qualifying. And Jack DeWack, as a matter of fact, Jack DeWack is a kid who's, doesn't have a lot of confidence right now because he doesn't have a lot of experience. It's funny how as you get more experience, you get more confident, I think it's a process. I don't think you can skip steps. I think a lot of guys try to skip steps and they try to force things and they think I think they think they're going to lean on their mechanics and that's going to get them through. Mechanics are fine, but as a competitor, and understanding how to play the golf course and how to strategize the golf course and how to remain calm on the golf course and understand that, listen, in golf, during your round, there's going to be adversity. I mean, nobody tees it up and hits 14 fairways and 18 greens. That's just not the way it goes. Every round, I think, for the high-level competitor has 2 to 3 critical junctures in the rounds. There's going to be 2 or 3 instances in a round where, the way you deal with that critical juncture and the way you respond to adversity during that critical juncture is going to determine how you play that round and how you turn the corner in any given event. And I think that comes with experience. I think that, Freddie Couples in 92 was a lot better than Freddie Couples in 1984 at the Tournament Players Championship. And allowed him to do things at Augusta that he hadn't done before. I think that, it's like climbing a mountain. There's steps you have to go through. There's no skipping steps and there's no substitute for experience.
Tom, for our listeners in the middle part of the country, this has been your first season as the Director of Instruction there at the Hawthorns Golf and Country Club there in Fishers, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. Remind our listeners about your golf school, getting in touch with you, and how they can improve their games for anybody that's even remotely near Indianapolis.
Well, Chris, Indianapolis is just about over now, so I'm more focused on talking to people about Naples, Florida, which will start for me this year on November 13th. You'll get a good laugh out of this, Chris. I have to leave Indianapolis sometime in early to mid-October and drive from Indy to New York because the old pro has to have cataract surgery and he tore the meniscus in his left knee. So I'm going up there, have two eyes done on my left knee. I'm like the Bionic Man. They're going to put me back together in New York in early November. And then I'm going to get my old ass in the car and drive myself back to Florida and get a little bit of a late start at my TP golf schools in Naples. Probably around November 13th, I'll kick off the winter season. So anybody who wants to reach me really now really wants to focus on Naples starting in mid-November. And, you know, as you know, Chris, they can get me via my website at either tompatri.com and then certainly a presence on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So there's a lot of ways to find me. It's not really that hard. I'm at the Esplanade in Naples, Florida. So there's a whole bunch of ways you can find me if you want to.
Tom, it's always a pleasure having you as part of the show, my friend. I always look forward to the every other week when I get to spend some more time with you. It's always fun. It's always informative. You are absolutely the best, my friend. I can't thank you enough for coming back and joining me again tonight.
Chris, I love coming on with you. I love what you do and how you mention the troops every week and how you think about those people that are overseas. There's so much a part of our fiber and sticking up for us around the world, and we should recognize, always remember those guys. And you do a great job of the show. Unbelievable array of guests you bring on. So many talented people. Andy Lano is an old friend of mine from 100 years ago, and I'm glad he's on with you too. And Gail Graham, and the list goes on and on. So, Chris, thanks for what you do for golf.
I appreciate you, TP. Take care, my friend. We'll catch up again real soon.
Thanks, pal. Good being with you. Bye-bye.
See you, buddy. That is the great Tom Patri, P-A-T-R-I. TomPatriGolf.com is his website. You can sign up. You can get lessons. You can send him videos. You can do all kinds of things with TP to get your game to the next level. And some of the things that he talks about on this show and some of the things that I'm working on, like I say, Tom has hammered into my head for the last several years about short game. And, quite frankly, when I go out to the range, about 90% of my time, thanks to Tom and the things that, A, he's taught me, B, the things he's told me, and drilled into my head, I'm hitting, I got a wedge or, I got some short game, club in my hand. From an 8-iron down, that's where I'm spending 90% of my time. And then probably 80% of the 90%, is with a wedge in my hand, because that's, if I'm going to, like you heard earlier with Perry French, right? 65% of the game is played from 125 yards in. So that's where I'm focusing my time. And, that's where I think we all should focus our time. The last couple of shots, I'll get out a driver just to say I did and, warm up and then go play my round. But, Tom's a great instructor. He's a 10 times better human being, than he is an instructor. Pardon me. And I can't thank him enough for his time. We look forward to catching up again with Tom here in a couple of weeks. All right, folks, time for me to put a bow on this edition of Next on the Tee. Again, want to thank my guests, Perry French, Andy Lano, Tom Patri, for joining me. And folks, we couldn't do it. We wouldn't do any of this without you. So I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show and making sure that we are a part of your golfing content. Please check out our website, nextonthetee.net. There you're going to be able to see what our guest schedule looks like. Plus, we link back to our page over on Podbean so you can stream or download any of our archive episodes. It's all for free on that site. And we're also on so many other great apps. We can't thank our supporters at Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audio Boom, Player.fm, our new friends at Launchpad DM. Go over to launchpaddm.com if you would and click on the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate that to help propel us up to Podcast One and that great podcasting site. So we'd appreciate your support there as well. And if you have questions, folks, you look at our guest schedule and you've got questions for someone who's been on the show in the past or someone that we've got coming up on the show again soon, please let me know. I'll be glad to get that question answered for you. We'll get it right on the air for you if it's a guest coming up, or we'll get the answer to you if it's for somebody that's been on the show in the past. Again, thank you very much for tuning in again tonight. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro. Tuesdays to hear more stories about the game we love from people who love sharing those stories with you. It's all about the great game of golf. It's all about the great game of golf.